Good evening, welcome to Champions League Live this Wednesday night as we round up match day 4 of the Champions League action. 7 games kicking off at 8 o'clock, one of which is our feature game at the Etihad as Manchester City and Borussia Dortmund, both still unbeaten in this season's Champions League, face off in Manchester. Also this evening, Ajax take on Galatasaray, an Ajax side who've lost all 3 of their Champions League games, as have Benfica. They host the Bayer Leverkusen side, were absolutely thumped by PSG last time out, 7-2 in Leverkusen. Club Brugge hosting Barcelona. Kairat Almaty have a trip to San Siro to take on Inter Milan. Man City against Borussia Dortmund is our feature game. A big game in the northeast of England as Newcastle host Athletic Club there at St James's Park, and Marseille hosting Atalanta. 2 early games that have both now concluded, including an English side involved, but we'll start with Paphos taking on Villarreal, and Paphos with a historic victory in the Champions League. A big result for them, their very first win in the Champions League, and what a result for them. A second half goal from Derek Lucassen with the goal to give them the lead, and Villarreal, a very good European side who've performed very well in Europe over the last few years, but that is their 3rd defeat in 4 Champions League games for Villarreal. But they had all the opportunities late in the game, but the job was done when Paphos scored the only goal of the match, and a great result for those. Karabakh getting a very good result out of Chelsea ultimately in that one. In that very close game in Azerbaijan. Chelsea took the lead, Estevao opening the scoring, but a turnaround quick in that first half from Karabakh. Andrade and Jankovic with a penalty, getting them back in front in that game, leading by 2-1, and into the second half, Alejandro Garnacho with the goal on 52 minutes got Chelsea a leveller, but it was just to be a point for the Blues, and they have 2 wins, 1 draw and 1 defeat from their opening 10 games, as do Karabakh, who both have 7 points, those two, and are around about the top 12 in the table. That's the way those early results went this evening. A big game, as I said, at the Etihad Stadium. 2 sides who are unbeaten at the start of this league phase campaign. A Manchester City side who only conceded 2 goals in the Champions League so far in their first 3 games. 2 wins and a draw from their opening 3 matches, and they drew last time out, did Manchester City, away at Monaco. A 2-2 draw for Borussia Dortmund. Well, they come into this one in actually really good form. 4 wins in a row, including their last Champions League game, which was away to FC Copenhagen, where they won by 4-2. And the travelling Dortmund fans in one corner of the Etihad are absolutely bouncing already, and their players haven't even entered the field of play. They're in the tunnel, ready to get involved, and you're waiting the arrival of the players for the moment. A referee this evening, Simon Marciniak from Poland, very experienced Champions League referee, has already refereed a Dortmund Champions League game this season already, and he refereed Dortmund's 4-1 win over Athletic Club on match day 2, so he has that link. But one man tonight who will be hoping to add to his tally, which is already impressive to start the season, is Erling Haaland. Got 2 goals at the weekend in that 3-1 win over Bournemouth here at the Etihad. And he has had an unbelievable start to the season. 26 goals for club and country since the start of this season for Erling Haaland. He is in uproarious form, and even for his own standards, quite remarkable start to the campaign. And a very misty and eerie feel about the Etihad so far. A very misty and foggy air as the Champions League anthem rings out. And Manchester City facing a very difficult side in Borussia Dortmund tonight. Two sides very well matched at the moment in their league campaigns. And let's see how they fare when they face each other. And of course the added storyline, of course, Erling Haaland's former club, goes without saying, is a storyline in and of itself. Well, let's have a look at the two teams then, starting with Manchester City tonight. Gigi Donnarumma starts in goal. The back four of Matheus Nunes, John Stones, Joshua Gvardiol and Nico O'Reilly. Nico Gonzalez continues in midfield. No Rodri tonight in the squad. Pep Guardiola said he had a setback during the week to his recovery from injury. He did come on against Bournemouth at the weekend, but a setback means he is not involved tonight. Tierney Reinders comes into the side after he also came off the bench at the weekend. Phil Foden starts as well in that attacking 10 role. Savinho off the right, Doku off the left, and Erling Haaland, of course, leading the Manchester City line tonight. On the bench for City, Trafford, Bettinelli, Diaz, Ake, Kusanov, Lewis, Cherki, Bernardo Silva, Aït-Nouri, Bob and Omar Marmoush. A strong Manchester City bench in all areas tonight, and no Mateo Kovacic, who's still out injured, as well as Rodri, of course. For Borussia Dortmund, Gregor Kobel starts in goal. They've gone for that back 3/back 5 that we've seen Niko Kovac get a good bit of success out of this season. Ryerson starts at right wing back. Anton Schlotterbeck and Ben Sebaini are the centre backs, with Svensson at left wing back. Marcel Sabitzer and Felix Metscher are in midfield. Maximilian Bayer and Karim Adeyemi are just behind the centre forward of Seru Girassi, who is also a very high scoring figure this season. 5 league goals already this campaign and 7 goals in total. He is quite a sensation, is Seru Girassi. 13 Champions League goals last season, and he starts up front for Borussia Dortmund. On the bench, Ostrazinski, Meyer, Couto, Chan and Anselminho, Bellingham, Chukwuemeka, Gross and Fabio Silva, of course. Two sides that look to and will want to try and remain unbeaten in the Champions League this season, but they want to improve their positions in the table as well. And what a statement it would be if Borussia Dortmund could come here and get a result. But for Man City, it's a want to return to winning ways in the Champions League after dropping points last time out. Kick-off at the Etihad amongst 6 other games kicking off at 8 o'clock is live next. Very good evening and welcome to this one. Manchester City in sky blue home strip, and of course no clash, so Dortmund are in their home strip of famous black and yellow, and they will be getting us underway tonight. Dortmund kicking from right to left, City from left to right, and let's see how we get underway here this evening. Amongst all of our games, we had quite a few goals and quite a few interesting results last night in our 8 o'clock games, and let's hope that there's something similar in the air in the Champions League tonight. And let's see, another great European clash. As I say, that misty atmosphere inside the Etihad, and I don't know whether they had pyrotechnics before the game, but it's a very foggy type feel here this evening as Svensson tried to work it down the left-hand side there, but dispossessed as Dortmund intently winning it back. Nicely won by Maximilian Bayer. And all the way back to Nico Schlotterbeck, to Valdemar Anton. And now out to Karim Adeyemi. Dortmund trying to hold the possession in the City half early doors. That's a nice ball out wide here to Svensson. There's Nunes covering him over, works it back inside to Metscher and back to Schlotterbeck. Nice arrowed ball to find Bayer, lays it out wide to Svensson. Positive start here from Dortmund, and Svensson's cross is cleared away by Joshua Gvardiol in the box. But very good start from Dortmund. You've come out with an intensity and a positivity to try and take the game to Man City early doors, and Doku got his first touches, was dispossessed by Caoimhan, and it comes all the way back to Gregor Kobel in the Borussia Dortmund goal. So we are underway in all of our games tonight, the 7 matches. Some interesting ones to keep an eye on, but as well, Newcastle hosting Athletic Club, of course, a big game for Newcastle. Their defeat away at West Ham at the weekend. They want to get rid of that as quickly as possible, get it out of their minds as quickly as possible. Pretty poor result by their standards, but also the way West Ham have played this season. At times absolutely dominated Newcastle in that game, and that'll be something that Eddie Howe and his team will want to put right tonight against a good Athletic Club side. They've won 2 of their 3 Champions League games so far this campaign, have Newcastle. Lost the other one. But a very good start to the campaign for Eddie Howe's team. Not only defeat coming against the mighty Barcelona, so there's no shame in that. We see the switch ball there from Dortmund, trying to target the run of Adeyemi in behind, but nicely shielded by Nico O'Reilly. And that will be the threat that Dortmund will have tonight, that counter-attacking pace against City. Those options in Adeyemi and Bayer, and then Ciro Gerassi's physicality as the centre forward, just to add that extra little bit of spice into the Dortmund attack. The intensity of winning the ball back here is what's been the highlight so far, as Anton back to trying to find it through to Gerassi there, but was dispossessed. The City win the ball back, but only for a split second as Doku was brought down. But referee Simon Marciniak letting a lot of the game flow, no fouls as of yet, as Bayer lays it out wide to Svensson. Here's Felix Mecha and Sabitzer. Back it comes to Schlotterbeck, and now Valdemar Anton switching it out to that left hand side, and Svensson just couldn't bring that one down, a little bit too high, that switch ball, and Daniel Svensson tried to keep it in, but to no avail. And that has been, as I said, a positive start for Dortmund with the possession so far. Practically dominated the ball early in this game, and Man City have barely got out of their own half for the first 4 minutes, but no real goal threat from the visitors as of yet, but certainly getting comfortable on the ball. Nunez to take the short throw. Blocked well by Bayer, but we'll get another throw in, and Pep Guardiola just trying to inject the energy into his team. They've given it away from that throw in. Here's Gerassi. Lays it off to Svensson, who tried to cut back, but well blocked by Man City on the near side, and out for the Dortmund throw again. A bit of a sloppy move there from City from their own throw in, and Ciro Gerassi ended up picking up the ball in a dangerous area. Guardiola not happy with the way his side have started, a bit sluggishly for Manchester City so far, but here comes a long throw, which is the viral trend in European football at the moment. It's a long ball into the box, find the feet of Adeyemi, who made it a little difficult there, and City do well to scramble it away, but certainly asked 1 or 2 questions. That City defence, that long throw. Schlotterbeck, beautiful ball out to Caoimhan on this right hand side. Left footed delivery, cleared away by Joshko Vardiol. And now a takedown here from Savinho if he can have a go, and nice reverse ball into Tiani Reinders. He's held it up well and feeds it nicely out wide to Jeremy Doku. That's better for Man City. Here's Doku. Doku towards the edge of the box, and he goes low with a shot. And that took a real bobble. Went wide of the post, but Dortmund seemed a little bit too blasé about that. Jeremy Doku was given all the space in the world to have a shot at goal, and no one really threw themselves at it. The goalkeeper was scrambling across, but was nowhere near it. If that was inside the post, that would have been a real sucker punch for Dortmund there, but Doku couldn't direct it that way. And the first shot of any real significance of the night is a pretty tame one for the home side, but add to the fact that not only Dortmund have had good control of the ball, they've completely silenced the Etihad crowd that were bouncing before kick-off, where the atmosphere was quite poignant before kick-off, but it's kind of deaded itself in the first few minutes. Schlotterbeck across to Anton as City trying to press Dortmund, and Schlotterbeck trying to fire it through the lines. Not quite directed to one of his teammates on that occasion. We have our first goal of the night, by the way, and it's an interesting one in Bruges, between Club Bruges and Barcelona, and Bruges have taken the lead against Barcelona tonight. An early opener for the Belgian side, and Nicolo Tresoldi with the goal has given Club Bruges the lead, and not a good start for Barcelona. They find themselves behind early doors as we see this goal here. I'm just seeing it to my left hand side, ball across the box, and Tresoldi throws himself at it, goes underneath the goalkeeper in Szczesny, and that's what comes out of that one. And I believe the referee's an English referee, but we'll not go there. I don't know why we would, but Anthony Taylor is the referee tonight in that one. Vardiol gets a bit sloppy in possession. Here's Adeyemi breaking towards the goal. Adeyemi into the box here for Dortmund. He works it across, and again City a little bit sluggishly in clearing their lines, as it is away by Vardiol this time, but Doku again struggling to keep a hold of the ball, and some sloppy passes from Man City in the early minutes, as well as that comfort on the ball that Dortmund seem to have, and their convincing intense press, and just looks a little bit off it so far, Manchester City, and Dortmund not really threatening too much, but Adeyemi is looking a threat a little bit. A couple of runs in behind. Savinho back to Matheus Nunes. Gonzalez back to Nunes. Nico Gonzalez onto Reinders. Now a nice layoff here for Nico O'Reilly to break forward for Manchester City. O'Reilly comes to the edge of the box, lobs it into the area, and away from Foden's path, and cleared out by Schlotterbeck for the throw-in. Yeah, a little bit better from City there, and it was a good link-up between Reinders and Gonzalez that got the move going. Ultimately laying it out wide to Nico O'Reilly, who carried it forward and finding it into Phil Foden in the box, whose cutback was blocked, but decent from Manchester City as they win it back again here, and here's a shot! Oh, and the rebound is poked over the crossbar as well. Well, I think it was offside anyway from the rebound, but Phil Foden's effort was a decent one. It was comfortably gathered by Gregor Kobel anyway, but again, better from Savinho, working off that right-hand side, and again, yeah, Phil Foden with a shot, and Savinho was offside on the rebound. But not a bad effort from Foden. We have a goal to tell you about as well in Bruges, and that lead didn't last too long for Club Bruges, because Barcelona are back on terms in that one, so it is 1 apiece. And Ferran Torres with the goal just 2 minutes after Bruges took the lead. Barcelona had levelled. Fermin Lopez setting up Ferran Torres, and it is 1-1. A reminder for you, the only 2 games that have finished, Pafos against Villarreal. Villarreal, that's finished 1-0 to Pafos, and Karabag 2, Chelsea 2. They're the only 2 games that have concluded. Well, the other 7 games are just not long underway. Here's a chance down the right side again from Adeyemi across, and a half clearance at the back post again by Vardiol. Isn't the most convincing, but he finds his way to Reinders, and now here's Haaland having to come a bit deeper to get some sort of touch on the ball. Erling Haaland in these first 11 minutes. And Nathan says, did Barcelona lose? Are they still playing? They are still playing. It's not long kicked off in that one, so it's been a very energetic start in that game. 2 goals in the first 8 minutes. There's again another ball by Sabitzer that time towards Adeyemi's path, and this time Nico O'Reilly does well to shield it out of play for a throw-in, but again, Adeyemi seems to be the key target man for Dortmund to create that threat in behind. From the City throw-in, Nico O'Reilly here with the ball down the left side, finding it to Doku. Has to reverse it back the way to Joško Vardiol. It's important for Manchester City just to settle into the game, just get some possession, start to try and create some things. Well, not like that, they're not going to, and Nico O'Reilly got a little bit too excited and misplaced his touch there, and out for the throw-in to Borussia Dortmund. Gregor Kobel with a long kick forward. Girassi with a hold-up play, finding Bayer. Girassi does really well to lay it off to Sabitzer. And the referee probably should have played advantage there because Caoimhan Adeyemi was in behind, but Girassi's down. And Nico Schlotterbeck making the point that he could have played advantage, referee, because Girassi did very well, laid it off to Sabitzer, and Sabitzer just played it straight out wide to Adeyemi, who was in space and had the opportunity to break in behind, but I mean, I'm surprised the referee didn't play advantage there. Joško Vardiol was late on Girassi. It was a foul, but I don't think the foul is more important than the advantage that could have came if they continued playing from that sort of position. Nonetheless, they do take the free kick. Dortmund inside the centre circle, and it's flicked forward but cleared right back by Manchester City to Valdemar Anton. Now to Kobel. And it is the Dortmund fans that are making noise inside the Etihad at the moment. A very stum home crowd. We have a goal at St James's Park to tell you about. Newcastle have taken the lead. A great start for Newcastle. They actually thought they'd scored a moment or two ago, but that was ruled out for offside. They now have scored, and it's Dan Burn who has given Newcastle United the lead. So Newcastle already in front against the Athletic Club and looking to create what is a great start to the season in the Champions League for them. If they win tonight, it will be their third Champions League win in 4 matches. Quite a stark contrast to the last time they were in the Champions League in the group stages, and they won just 1 of their 6 group games and ended up finishing bottom of the group table. So quite a vast difference from Eddie Howe's team now, as here's a last-ditch challenge there by Svensson, and it's going to be a yellow card for his challenge on Savinho. Again, a little bit open there, Dortmund in behind. Svensson just a little bit too slow to try and recover back, and Savinho round his blind side, and Svensson throws a leg, sliding in. He is a little late, and it is a yellow card challenge by Daniel Svensson. And Borussia Dortmund have a free kick to defend. Around about 25 yards out, slightly to the right of goal for Manchester City. So Yanni Reinders and Phil Foden are the two that stand above the ball. Foden looks the most likely, but let's see what will come. Man City, 4-man wall of Dortmund, including Schlotterbeck, the captain. Here's Foden, went low with it, and it ended up being a pretty simple catch for Gregor Kobel, who watched it all the way and gathered it quite comfortably. Here is Gregor Kobel. Goes long. One back by Man City is Yanni Reinders with the recovery. We have more action as well. I mean, I did say we were hoping for an exciting set of matches tonight. Well, I can tell you there's been a missed penalty in Marseille. Marseille taking on Atalanta tonight. And Atalanta had a penalty. Charles de Ketelaere stepped up, and it was well saved by the Marseille goalkeeper in Geronimo Rulli. And a big chance for Atalanta to take the lead on the road, and they failed to do so. Charles de Ketelaere having his penalty saved. So still 0-0 in that one. City play it nicely well. Doku coming central and actually feeds it out wide here to Savinho. Savinho going for the cross, and Svensson was there to block it. Behind for the corner. Be the first corner of the night for either side, and more defending for Borussia Dortmund to do, but I'm sure they weren't naive in thinking they weren't needing to do that at any point tonight. Away to Man City. Another goal in Bruges. We'll get there in a moment as a corner delivered in. Flicked away at the near post. Bouncing down, and the shot is right across goal. Right the other end for a throw, and it was Thierry Reinders with the effort on the half volley. Yeah, the corner was well dealt with at the front post by Dortmund, but the flick on just falls for Reinders, and he hits it on the volley. But struck it well across goal, and to no real threat to Gregor Kobel's nets behind him. But then it actually will go out for a throw to Borussia Dortmund. We've been, as it was said, another goal in Bruges, and well, despite the fight back from Barcelona, Bruges are back in front again. Club Bruges 2, Barcelona 1, and that is set out to be a great game there in Belgium tonight. So 2-1 to Bruges. And I can tell you the goal scorer there was Carlos Forbes, who set up the opening goal. Carlos Forbes with the assist for the first goal, and he's got a goal himself for the second. So producing early doors is Carlos Forbes. Here's Serhou Guirassy. Nice little 1-2 with Felix Metsche, and Guirassy tried to take on Nico Gonzalez, but failed in that one-on-one battle. That was lovely from Savinho. Beautiful, as he was absolutely body checked to the ground by Ben Sabini. He wasn't going to be embarrassed by Savinho on that one. And Rami Ben Sabini giving away the free kick, but look at this skill from Savinho. It absolutely bypasses Ben Sabini with no trouble. As I say, Ben Sabini was not going to let that go unpunished, and a free kick for a foul. As O'Reilly rides another challenge that was Sabitzer that time. In behind it goes. Reinders making runs out wide it to Doku. Back to the edge of the box, and Gonzalez with an effort. Struck a Dortmund man, and it's actually going to be an offside flag up against Man City, but I think there is a Dortmund player down as well, so we will have a stoppage for the moment. Nathan says, I don't want either team to win as I support Schalke and Liverpool. Wow, what a combination. Andy says, hey man, I hit the like. Thank you very much, Andy, for joining us again. Great to have you with us for this one once more. And yeah, there was an offside there against Man City. Well spotted by the officials. So goalless after about 19.5 minutes here at the Etihad. Manchester City slightly a little bit better than what they were in the first few minutes. Dortmund came out not really flying out of the traps. That's a little bit excessive, but they did come out and control the ball, bring the ball down, and certainly had a lot of the early possession without much threat. But Man City did look a little bit sluggish to start the game, and Dortmund silencing the Etihad crowd. So pretty much as you would expect for a big away European night. First task is to try and quieten down the atmosphere and get some early passes, and Dortmund did do that. Neither side have really had much goal threat as of yet. Phil Foden with probably the only real notable effort so far. Other than that, it's been a pretty low-key affair. We have a penalty. There's a penalty check in the San Siro between Inter Milan and Kairat Almaty. And I'm not too sure who it is. I think it might be for Inter, but you can never be too sure. Let's see what the referee will decide there. Will it be a penalty? It is no penalty. Right, let's back to this game. And here's a chance for Manchester City. Savinho's going behind. He's worked it across, and Haaland was waiting around the back post, but I think Ryerson got something to that. A little bit of a touch because Haaland was nowhere near it in the end. Gaping hole for Savinho to break into. He's looked an early threat for Manchester City. Here's Gonzalez, Reinders, now through to Foden. Foden with a chance to shoot! And tucks it in the bottom left corner. Wonderful from Phil Foden. A low-key affair with a really well-taken shot into the bottom corner. And that's a wonderful goal for Manchester City. Low-key, but well-taken by Phil Foden. Struck it nicely. Low, hard, bottom left corner. No problem for Phil Foden. And Manchester City have the breakthrough. Again, it's just perfectly guided into the bottom left corner. It's not like he's put his foot through it. It's not really like he tried to put any whip on it. It was the accuracy of the finish. Really good ball by Reinders. And it's just the accuracy of the way Phil Foden just takes it so calmly, just kind of strokes it into the bottom left corner. It's just really nicely taken by Foden. And then again, it only says one thing, that despite the way Dortmund have started, despite the way the game has been a little bit, neither side have really had an opportunity of any real grit. No, Manchester City show their quality in the accuracy and the quality of their centre forwards, and Phil Foden certainly one of those performing at the top level at the moment, and he's given them the opener. And that is, well, the perfect chance, an opportunity to Man City to score. And quite from the kickoff, they're back in it again, and Savinho, his pass didn't quite find a target, but it's now found its way to Doku. You kind of fear for Dortmund that Manchester City didn't really need to work very hard for that goal. It was nicely created and really well finished, but in terms of Dortmund's point of view, it was not much defending going on, as Gobel was a little late there. There's a City player down as Foden tries to cross again, away by Schlotterbeck. And Adeyemi tries to spring a counter for Dortmund. There's a player down, it's Reinders, it down in the box. It was taken out by Gregor Kobel. And Gregor Kobel maybe getting away with one there, but Reinders slowly getting back to see this again. Ooh, yeah, Gregor Kobel, fair enough, he gets all the ball there, if I'm honest. See the replay. Reinders just in an unfortunate collision, really. Nothing really in that from the replay. And pretty fairly. And yeah, Gregor Kobel did really nothing wrong, and good to see that Thierry Reinders is back to his feet, and they share an embrace just to make sure there's no issues between the two, as no there should be in that moment. Andy says, not to report on, but this could easily end up 0-0 or 1-1 if Dortmund score first. Well, Phil Foden with the opener after 25 minutes. So, well, after 22 minutes he scored, but it's around about 25 minutes now. Foden always has a purple patch every season now. Pops up, then disappears, as like he popped up. Yeah, I think. But most players are like that. Most forwards are like that. You know, Erling Haaland's a freak of nature that we've probably become a little bit used to, of a player scoring nearly every game. It's just not normal what that is. And here's another cross from Savinho. I mean, I gotta say, down that left-hand side, Dortmund looked really weak in these early moments, because Savinho was having his way down that left-hand side with Ben Sabine and Svensson, because he's running through them. I mean, they might be playing a back five out of possession, Dortmund, but it doesn't look like it, because two of their defenders are just irrelevant at the minute. Here's Mecha down the right-hand side for Adeyemi, but well covered over by Joško Vardiol. And Adeyemi goes to pushing and shoving to try and win his battles, and in the end gives away a free kick. Well, no doubt the fact that Dortmund may be behind, but their fans still making a lot of noise, and they do travel well, the Dortmund fans. It's like the travelling yellow wall, and certainly making their voices heard so far in this one. 26.5 minutes in, and despite City leading, the away fans still seem pretty comfortable. Not really worried if they are at this moment in time. And I think that is another thing that could be the fear for Manchester City as well, or for Dortmund tonight, is that City get the early goal, and here's a chance to make it 2, and it's over the crossbar by Gregor Kobel with a right-handed punch, and it was Nico O'Reilly that was breaking into the box. I just caught a glimpse of it there. Well, let's see it again from the free kick. It's taken in by Haaland, and O'Reilly just makes that run off the back of his man. No one really tracks the run whatsoever. Again, everybody dragged towards the ball, towards Haaland. And O'Reilly, right on the penalty spot, a little off balance, strikes it with his left foot. And forced over the crossbar by Gregor Kobel with a really good deflection. And well saved. And O'Reilly with a big chance to make it 2-0 to Manchester City. We have another corner whipped in, up and away by Schlotterbeck. Fired clear well by Borussia Dortmund from danger, but certainly one of the best things about watching Manchester City is when they miss a chance or they don't score. Pep Guardiola's reactions. As here's Savinho again in, and again Kobel has to make a save. They're all over them at the minute. Here's Doku back across. Haaland! It is 2-0. And there you go again. Manchester City running riot now at the Etihad. And Borussia Dortmund are crumbling by the second. And Erling Haaland with goal number 27 of the season in minute number 29 of this game. Erling Haaland, inevitable. And it is Manchester City 2, Borussia Dortmund 0. My goodness me. I mean, terrible from Dortmund, but wonderful from City again. It's Savinho. I mean, I don't understand. They've so horribly defended him, but credit to Savinho, really good work. And then on the other side, Jeremy Doku just skips past his man in Ryerson like he doesn't exist, and he just cuts it back into the box, and Erling Haaland, unmarked, unchallenged, absolutely sensational. But Borussia Dortmund, it is just poor, and that's putting it nicely. And Niko Kovac, well, what do you say about that? What do you say about that? 2-0 down after less than 30 minutes, and it could be 3 again. They're in. And it's cleared away just about by Dortmund, but I mean, honestly, at this rate, it could get very ugly for the Germans. Let's keep you up to date with Around the Grounds at the moment. Not many goals to tell you about so far in our other games. 4 games that are still goalless in the first 30 minutes. Club Brugge 2-1 up against Barcelona is the very intriguing game in Bruges tonight, and Newcastle leading Athletic Club by a goal to 0. As it stands, 5 or all 6 English Champions League teams will have either won or drawn this match week and would remain unbeaten this match week. Chelsea would be the only side to fail to win as it stands, with Newcastle and City both winning. And obviously Arsenal, Spurs and Liverpool all winning last night as well. So the English side certainly dominant in Europe so far in the early months of the campaign, and you can certainly see it from tonight's performance and from other performances that we've seen over the last few weeks in the Champions League, that English sides seem to have the edge on the rest of Europe at the minute. Manchester City really weren't in the game for the first 10-15 minutes, and the last 15 they have absolutely tore Borussia Dortmund apart. might be an issue as well here for Borussia Dortmund to worry about, because Jeremy Doku was caught a little high there by Sirius Udasi, but I think they're just gonna... I don't think they are checking at VAR, but Pep Guardiola's querying why. And did look a little high, but I don't think they feel that there's any real issue with that. And we play on. Here is Girassi. Lays it off to Mecha. Mecha trying to return the favour, but not finding the room on that occasion. Real English says, did he celebrate? Not really. Erling Haaland didn't really celebrate, of course, scoring against his former club. And Pep Guardiola was asked about that before the game. He was asked about Erling Haaland against his former club and how inevitable was it that he was going to score against his former club. It seemed to always happen, no matter who you are, no matter who it is. They always seem to find a goal against their former clubs, but a lot of players have done it before. But Erling Haaland, he didn't celebrate that one, and quite respectful in that manner. Dortmund gave him, and certainly what he gave Dortmund when he was there. Certainly what he's giving Manchester City at the minute. Ruthlessness in front of goal. Here's Savinho, who's having a great game, and a chance for Reinders. Well saved by Kobel. And Haaland tried to help out of the rebound to try and get something towards goal, but not able to do so on that occasion. And Thierry Reinders striding onto that one gorgeously onto his right foot. And Gregor Kobel again forced into a big save. And that is, I think, the 5th save, or maybe the 6th save that Gregor Kobel's had to make already tonight, and we're only in the 33rd minute. So it is not looking too good, although that's nice from Adeyemi. This could be a major goal fest, albeit not with that type of pass from Sirius Udasi from a deeper position. And in the end, goes out for a goal kick to Manchester City. Yeah, we see it again here. Nice step away from Kader Adeyemi, who strode into the middle of the field and then laid it off to Sirius Udasi, but completely overhit his pass. As we see that challenge by Girassi on Doku again, and he was challenging for the ball, I get that, and maybe did get a contact on it. But the follow through is a little bit dangerous on Doku, but probably fair to not do too much there. Again, look at the gap for Savinho. Great ball again, well taken in. Savinho down the right hand side, and that time Svensson did just enough to defend it, and Max Bayer is coming forward, but there's a player down for Dortmund, which they're just going to stop the play for the moment, and Simon Marciniak is going to allow for the physios to come onto the field to treat the Dortmund player. And I think it's Ryerson that's down. It is. He's in pain at the moment, whatever's happened. I gotta say, Dortmund and Niko Kovac need desperately to fix the amount of space they're giving Savinho on that right hand side, because every single time that Man City get the ball back, it's just a switch ball out to Savinho, who's charging down that right hand side unchallenged 9 times out of 10, and is causing major issues for that Dortmund defence. It is really naive from Dortmund's point of view, and at the minute they are massively struggling in this game of football, and not only struggling, but 2 goals down. And at this sort of rate, I mean, Dortmund will be questioning whether they can keep the score down, never mind trying to get into the game at any means at this moment in time. Is Ryerson just trying to hold off Doku, and maybe that was the little issue, that he kind of hurt himself in the process there, something around that, but he's back to his feet, and will come to the sidelines. Yeah, wonderful goal from Phil Foden to open the scoring tonight. As I say, the pure accuracy of the shot. And then Erling Haaland, poor Pyre. Wonderful goal. And I mean, you get Erling Haaland in that position, completely unchallenged, with a chance to shoot at goal. 999 times out of 1,000 he's going to find the back of the net. One of the best strikers, if not the best striker on the planet at the minute. Erling Haaland, certainly showing that in his recent form. I mean, as I already said about his record for club and country this year, I read the stat at the weekend and I really couldn't believe how many goals he has scored this season for Man City and for Norway, of course, for his country. I mean, he scored 12 goals for Norway this season in the World Cup qualifiers. Here he's in behind again, Erling Haaland. Tried a little wide to the right that time, but he's going to work it back into the box. And Ryerson with a bit of a clearance at the back post as Nico O'Reilly was arriving. Erling Haaland maybe trying to get his assist stats up as well as his goals. Not a bad cross. Ryerson just poking it behind for a corner. As I was saying, 12 goals in 6 games for Norway for Erling Haaland, and 13 goals in the Premier League for City, 17 in total. So that's 29 for club and country. Quite sensational. Foden with the delivery in. Cleared away by Shirasi, who was having to do defensive duties there, as Foden whips it back in again in a header that was a little bit looped by Nico O'Reilly, caught by Gregor Kobel. Well, this first half has flew by. 7 minutes of the first half to go. Manchester City, an easy streak at the moment, 2-0 up and continuously pushing for another. For the moment, Dortmund are just about hanging on in there at 2-0 down. And unable to get anything of a positive note going forward for them at the moment. Although here's Karim Adeyemi, who is the positive bright spark. And he's a chance at goal. And forces a good save out of Donnarumma. On the first real chance of the night for Dortmund. Again, surprised that it came through the man who's looked the biggest threat for them already tonight. And that is Karim Adeyemi. Back out wide to Svensson now. Svensson inside to Mecha. Mecha back out wide to Bayer, who kind of switched there with Svensson. They look very similar. And it's cleared away by Manchester City with that cross. Well, again, certainly that Aston Villa game in the Premier League last weekend was, not the weekend just gone, the weekend prior, kind of looked like that little bit of a blip for Manchester City, a rare non-performance in what has been a otherwise quite fantastic run of games. They were on a 9-game unbeaten streak heading into that Aston Villa game. They've won their two games since that defeat to Villa. That's, what would that be, 11 games out of 12 unbeaten. And it looks like tonight they might just continue that tally of 12 out of 13 with the way things are going early doors. Again, some very close affairs across Europe at the minute. Not many goals to inform you of. As I said, Club Brugge still leading Barcelona by 2-1. Manchester City 2 up here against Dortmund, and Newcastle 1 up at home to Athletic Club. But the rest of the games, the 4 other games, are all goalless at the moment. Atalanta had a chance to take the lead from a penalty. That was saved. Inter and Kairat, the penalty was initially given to Inter, but that was disallowed after a VAR check. And not much, very low-key games between Benfica, Leverkusen and Ajax Galatasaray. And Benfica and Ajax, as I said, coming into tonight, are the two sides that are without a single point in the Champions League this season. As well, nicely worked by Dortmund to win it back here. Adeyemi with a shot that was right at Joško Gvardiol with a block. I gotta say, that was better from Dortmund. Ben Sabani back to Svensson. And now Schlotterbeck. City with ample bodies back to defend the situation surely, and that ball, evidence to it, Valdemar Anton's ball, caught comfortably by Gigi Donnarumma. Big chance again for Adeyemi. Just took a touch before having the shot, and such a tight area. You allow City a chance to get the block in, and that did come from Joshka Vardiol as Adeyemi again wins a throw, or a free kick, sorry. Well, so far it's been a pretty poor first half from Dortmund, but Karim Adeyemi's been their bright spark to this point. Their best chance of the game, and certainly looking a threat in the game prior to that opening shot for Dortmund. 3 minutes to go of the half. Dortmund in possession down the right hand side here with Valdemar Anton. Wide to Ryerson. Back to Anton. Mecha. Again, City just comfortable out of possession. Not much room, not much space. And when they do try and get it wide, although that's nice from Bayer that time, he played it right at Nico Gonzalez. It's Haaland now. Foden, and back the way it comes from Nunez. A theme we've seen, we kind of saw last night with at Anfield when Real Madrid came to Merseyside and played Liverpool last night. It looked like Liverpool were just comfortable out of possession. At times, Man City have looked like that as Haaland fired another shot at goal. Low and hard this time, but Gregor Kobel saw it coming and was able to make the save. Yeah, decent enough catch for Gregor Kobel. As I was saying, the English side last night in Liverpool just seemed a little just comfortable out of possession, even when Real Madrid did have the ball, and it seems a little bit like that at times tonight when Dortmund do have the ball. City don't look under threat, even in the early moments when Dortmund did start the better. There was no real goal threat, there was no real worry for City when they didn't have the ball. Just looked really solid out of possession and a compact shape that Dortmund just aren't able to fend off at the minute. Certainly out of possession themselves don't look the most comfortable Borussia Dortmund. Switch ball out here to Ryerson, finding Adeyemi. Oh, closed out that time. Nicely closed down by Gonzalez, who's on his own up there with Haaland, and Gonzalez was double teamed there. That time by Felix Mecha and Valdemar Anton, and Dortmund have the ball back. As we're into the last minute of the first half, 44.5 minutes gone. Dortmund with a bit more possession again, but in areas that Man City will be very happy for Dortmund to have the ball. Oh, that's a nice ball by Schlotterbeck, switching it out wide to Adeyemi. Nice little flick to find Ryerson, who goes for the cross. Half cleared by Stones, and nicely brought down by Savinho again, who has space and time on the ball. Here's Savinho trying to guide it in behind for Haaland, and nicely well done by Gregor Kobel, coming out to clear the ball. Erling Haaland almost in again, timing that run into in behind it to perfection. In behind Schlotterbeck, who probably could have had control of it, but his goalkeeper made sure that he was the one that was going to deny Erling Haaland any sort of opportunity there, and a good clearance by Gregor Kobel. 2 minutes of additional time, and we have another goal to tell you about. We have a goal in Milan at San Siro between Inter and Caoimhan Almaty, and despite a penalty being disallowed for Inter earlier, they lead by a goal to nil. As here's Jeremy Doku running through, but again nicely covered up and cleaned up by Gregor Kobel. And Lautaro Martinez, by the way, was the scorer for Inter, so they have the lead just on the brink of half time. Inter 1, Caoimhan 0. Of course, Caoimhan Almaty, one of the debutants in the Champions League this season, from Kazakhstan. and trailing at San Siro. I think many teams can say that's happened to them before. Certainly indeed. The last couple of seconds of the first half. Well, at half-time we'll analyse some of last night's results, what they mean for the table, what they mean for the early season in the Champions League phase, and around about half of the game still to go as Shirasi has a shot from range that was off target. Well, after tonight's games we will be halfway through the league phase. 4 matches down, 4 to go, and we'll really get a good grasp of where each team is as we have the half-time whistle blown by the referee Simon Marciniak, and an early low-key first half that kicked into life when Phil Foden found the back of the net for Manchester City. Erling Haaland soon followed with his first of the night and one of many already this season, and that is how we stand at half-time. Dortmund thought, and maybe like Bournemouth at the weekend, they thought they had Manchester City where they wanted them, and again they have been punished because of that lackadaisical approach. And at half-time, Manchester City running riot and probably could be further ahead from the way they performed in this first half, but it's Man City 2, Borussia Dortmund 0. We'll analyse all the games and last night's results when we come back. Sure, one last kick. This is gonna be it. This is the moment. Vicario kicks this, and Liverpool are there. Liverpool are Premier League champions, and there it comes. Crystal Palace, for the very first time in their history, are FA Cup winners. Oh, he's found the net. Oh, what a goal. Kvaratskhelia is through, wants to add a fourth, and does so. Ahmad, oh my goodness me. That is absolutely unbelievable. Rice again. Oh! You thought he couldn't beat the first one. He's gone and battered it. Another whip ball in. The header is in by Virgil van Dijk. Incredible. Welcome back to Champions League Live. Half-time at the Etihad Stadium. It's Manchester City 2, Borussia Dortmund 0 at the break. Phil Foden and Erling Haaland both on the score sheet in that first half, and what was a dominant display in the end for Manchester City in that first period. They had 11 shots, 7 on target. Dortmund 4 shots, just the 1 on target. And that Karim Adeyemi chance that probably was a decent opportunity for Borussia Dortmund, but really they started decently well, as I said, early in the game with a decent start with possession and controlling the ball and really having Manchester City in their own half. And Pep Guardiola was frustrated early on with the way his side had started. You could really tell from that he was a little bit on edge in the first 5-10 minutes with his team's performance. But they kind of slowly grew into the game, Manchester City. And when they did, as I said, Phil Foden opening the scoring in the 22nd minute, and that really just set the tone for where the game was going to go from there on in. And certainly that first half, when Foden scored, they didn't look back, Manchester City, and certainly look forward to adding more goals. They did. They added Erling Haaland's effort onto the score sheet to make it 2-0, but probably could add more. Haaland with one or two other efforts, Reinders with an effort as well. So a couple of other chances for Manchester City to try and add to their lead, but Dortmund hanging on in there, and it's not completely out of reach. You know, we do say that, you know, Manchester City, the way they're playing at the moment, they don't look like they're going to really give up too many chances, certainly. And the way they've played tonight, and the way Dortmund have played quite similarly doesn't look like they're going to be giving up much in that second half, but you never know. That's what the Champions League is all about. You really can't predict what's going to happen next, but certainly the way Manchester City have played and their strength in their defence so far this season, and certainly in the last few games, has looked to be a real bright spark for them. And certainly, if Dortmund are to get back into the game at any stage of tonight's match, I wouldn't be too surprised that it would be Caoimhan that would help them to that. He's the only real player in that first half that's probably played to his level for Borussia Dortmund, and I think they have been. It's been a real struggle for Niko Kovac's side, and I think once you go 1-0 down to Manchester City, the most important thing is not to go 2-0 down too quickly afterwards, and not to really give them that intense momentum in the game, and that's exactly what Dortmund gave Manchester City in that moment when they did go 1-0 up. It was a little bit of a shell shock to Dortmund. As I said, it wasn't like Manchester City were pummeling the goal. It was probably the first real big opportunity of the game in front of goal, and Manchester City took the lead, and it did kind of shell shock Dortmund. I don't think they really recovered from that probably till the last 5 minutes of the first half, when the game was a little bit more balanced after that. But I think Manchester City just took firm grip of the game and started to run away with it in that 20-minute spell after the Phil Foden goal. But certainly I think Borussia Dortmund have a lot of hard work to do if they want to try and get anywhere near back into this game in the second half. And as I said, Manchester City have only conceded 2 goals in the Champions League in the first 3 games. Dortmund are going to have to find a way to make them concede 2 in one half, and without conceding themselves, if they're to go back into this game. So the task is very difficult indeed, but we'll see if they can do that when the second half comes around. Very shortly, about 9 minutes away. Let's show you then all of the games that are in action tonight. 2 games that kicked off earlier this evening across Europe. Pafos getting their first Champions League win over Villarreal in a 1-0 victory earlier on this evening. Qarabag holding Chelsea to a 2-2 draw. Chelsea took the lead. Qarabag turned it all around, leading by 2-1 at half time, but Chelsea with the only goal of the second half, getting a point out of that game in a tough place to go in Azerbaijan away to Qarabag, and Chelsea coming away with a point. As it stands at half time in the 7 remaining games that are all at the half, at this minute in time it's goalless between Ajax and Galatasaray. At this moment in time, as I said, an Ajax side who are completely devoid of confidence in the Champions League, have lost all 3 of their opening games in the Champions League this season, and they take on a Galatasaray side tonight who are looking a real threat this season in the Champions League. 2 wins out of their first 3 games, Galatasaray, but so far neither side have really put much threat in front of goal, and that is where we stand at the break there. I would have to say, if either team if one of the 2 teams in that game looked like they were scoring, it would be Galatasaray. From what I've been able to gather, it is also goalless between Benfica and Bayer Leverkusen, which again has another feeling of a Benfica side that have 0 opportunity and confidence in the Champions League this season. As I said, they're the only other side alongside Ajax that have failed to pick up any points so far this season. But based on the first half, it looks like it's maybe a little bit brighter for Benfica. They've had 10 shots in that first half, 5 on target, and certainly the better side in that fixture against the Bayer Leverkusen side, who are neither here nor there. They seem a little bit lost to Leverkusen there without a win in the Champions League so far this season. 2 draws and a defeat from their first 3 games, and they are looking like they're being dominated in Portugal tonight, but goalless on the score sheet. Speaking of dominated, Club Brugge are getting one over on Barcelona at the moment. They lead by 2-1 at the break. And a very good first half, certainly from the home side, who actually probably have been under the cosh for a lot of that first half, as is Barcelona's way. They dominate the game, and they certainly did dominate the game, but after they went 1-0 down, it was Nicola Tresoldi, that was set up by Carlos Forbes to give Bayer Leverkusen, Club Brugge, the lead in that one after just 6 minutes. 8 minutes gone. Literally about a minute or 2 later, Ferran Torres had levelled for Barca, and it seemed like at that point they were going to kick on and do what they always do and find a way back to lead the game, but that's not what the script had in mind, and certainly they did continue to dominate and threaten for maybe a second goal, Barca at 1-1, but the second goal actually came the way of the home side, and Club Brugge restoring their lead. Carlos Forbes, who set up the first, has put the second one into the back of the net and gives Club Brugge a half-time lead. As I said, Barcelona with more of the opportunities, but not very much threat on the Club Brugge goalkeeper. Just 2 shots on target for Barca in that first half. Compare that to Club Brugge, who had 4 shots on target, but Barca certainly having more opportunities in the game, just not as accurate with them at the moment. And as it stands, they would be heading away from Belgium with not a single point as it stands there, 2-1 down at the break. It is a half-time lead for Inter Milan at San Siro against Kairat Almaty, a Kairat side from Kazakhstan who are making their debut in the competition this season, but not a bad first few weeks in the competition, albeit just 1 point, but a very crucial point that they have picked up before tonight's games. But it looks like it's going the way it has for the first few games for Kairat, and they trail at half-time by 1-0. Lautaro Martinez, who else really, if you're honest, for Inter Milan, has given them the lead, and last season's finalists are leading. Still yet to concede a goal, Inter, this season in the Champions League. And I would hedge my bets on that not changing into the second half, or at least tonight. They did also have a penalty that was disallowed. They thought they were getting a penalty, Inter, after 20 minutes, but VAR looked at it and said no chance. Half-time, Man City 2, Borussia Dortmund 0. We've already talked a little bit about this game and what a tough task it is for Dortmund to try and get back into it at half-time, and the way Man City have kind of dominated that first period. Newcastle in their game are also leading, so it looks like it's going to be, as it stands, an unbeaten match week for English teams, and all but one of them, as it stands, would won this week. All 3 of them won last night, and 2 of the 3 are winning tonight. Dan Burn with the only goal of that first half for Newcastle. It has given them the lead against Athletic Club. A little bit of a worry though for Newcastle. Anthony Gordon has had to come off due to injury just before half time, so that is a little bit of a worry. Jacob Murphy on in his place. And also the final game of our 7 that we're watching tonight, Marseille 0, Atalanta 0, and Atalanta had a penalty, but it was saved well by the Marseille goalkeeper Charles de Ketelara, with the opportunity to give Atalanta the lead, and it was well saved by the Marseille goalie in the goal, Geronimo Rulli, and it is goalless at the break. That is tonight's games. Let's have a quick re-glance at last night's fixtures. Frankfurt 0 away at Napoli, 0-0 in that one. Arsenal 3-0 winners away at Slavia Prague. Atletico Madrid, not an easy win, but they did get a 2-goal result in the end. A late goal there from Llorente, sealing up a 3-1 victory. A big win away from home from Monaco, away at Bodo Glimt, winning by 1-0. It was 1-1. It finished between Juventus and Sporting. Liverpool with a massive victory at home to Real Madrid in that feature game that we watched last night. Alexis McAllister's goal, his header from a free kick, winning that one. Olympiacos 1, PSV 1. The European champions beaten at home by Bayern Munich last night as well, despite Bayern being down to 10 for the whole of the second half. PSG could only muster up 1 goal to try and get back into the game, and they failed to get back into it. And it finished Bayern 2, PSG 1. And a dominant display in the end from 10-man Spurs. They were 2-0 up when they went down to 10 Spurs and decided, why not add another 2 goals? And they did, and they completely dominated Copenhagen on the night in North London and finished Spurs 4, Copenhagen 0. That was last night's results, and we're halfway through 7 of our 9 games already tonight in the Champions League. And it's looking all swell for Manchester City and Newcastle at the moment, who lead at half-time. Second half in all 7 of those games on the way next. Welcome back to Champions League Live. Half-time, it is City 2, Dortmund 0. Dortmund are already out on the pitch. City are just going to be returning in a moment. Let's remind you what's to come then on LFS. Well, Matchday 5 of the Champions League is in 3 weeks' time, the 25th and 26th of November for Game Week 5 of this season's Champions League phase. And also this weekend we're back with Premier League action. We're in North London as Spurs take on Manchester United Saturday at 12:30. Following that up by another North London side in action, Arsenal's trip away to Sunderland on Saturday evening as well. So two very intriguing games amongst a few others as well in the Premier League at the weekend, including Man City hosting Liverpool on Sunday as well. Right, the players back out onto the fields and ready to battle it out for the second half. Don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on post notifications if you haven't done so already. That would be greatly appreciated. And thank you all for joining us so far tonight. It's great to have your company for this one this evening. And we're halfway through to what seems to be a pretty routine win for Manchester City. We're only halfway through this game. Still a big next 45 minutes to come, and whether Borussia Dortmund can conjure up something of a comeback will be yet to be seen, but we will find out in the next 45 minutes or so. It looks improbable, but nothing's impossible when it comes to the Champions League. That's certainly what this competition informs you of. Nothing is impossible, no doubt about that. But a very tall order for Borussia Dortmund in the second half. Again, a clearance from City that actually turns out to be a good moment for them, because here they come. Here's Reinders breaking to the edge of the box. Lays it off now to Savinho. Savinho, who gets a chance to run a goal and have a shot. And again, there's the first save of the half from Gregor Kobel. The first of many. As Doku's not away and done yet. Doku with a cut back into the box. Cleared away by Max Bayer. And we'll try and break away for a counter here, but not many following him. As Seydou Girassi just tried to recycle it. That's nicely worked actually to Felix Metscher. And now Max Bayer's in behind. Bayer just about holding on to the ball. A nice work to find Svensson. Svensson into the box. Daniel Svensson cuts it back, cleared away, and the follow-up shot is off target by Felix Metscher. Big chance. You certainly feel that with a better strike it could have caused Gianluigi Donnarumma one or two problems there from Felix Metscher's effort, but City with the first real chance of the half again, and Savinho once more. I gotta say, Savinho has been quite excellent for me so far tonight. Certainly one of his best performances I've seen, although didn't win the tussle there that time. And Seydou Girassi with a poor first touch allows Stones to clear away. Nicely received again in field by Gonzalez. Back to John Stones. And the next goal in this game will be crucial. If Dortmund get it, there could be a hint of a comeback on the cards, but if Manchester City get it, well, it is all sewn up by that point. And that's what Dortmund cannot allow to happen if they want to get something out of this game. Here's Matheus Nunes breaking forward down the right-hand side and completely unchallenged at the minute until Nico Schlotterbeck comes onto the scene and does barge him out of the way, but it looked like it was the parting in the Red Sea there for a minute for Matheus Nunes, just marauding his way through, completely unchallenged, until the Dortmund captain had something to say about it. Switch ball here from Dortmund, nicely taken in by Ryerson. Nice little touch, finding it out wide to Karamadiemi. Another goal at St James's Park. There's a deep ball by Sabitzer to the back post, flicked back in by Svensson, and Bayer was well marshalled on that occasion by Tiani Reinders. Haaland out wide to Savinho. And reverses it back the way to Matheus Nunes. Well, as I was saying about that goal at St James's Park, Newcastle leading by a goal to nil against Athletic Club. Well, it has just gotten better for Eddie Howe's team. They have now doubled their lead, and it's Joe Linton with the header from a near-sided cross, and that is 2-0 to Newcastle United. Both goals tonight coming from headers. Dan Burn with the first, and Joe Linton with the second. And Newcastle 2, Athletic Club 0. Wow. Already faced English opposition already this season. Athletic Club home to Arsenal on match day 1 of the Champions League, and a 2-0 defeat. That's a lovely little step away by Doku from Ryerson. Doku into the box again. Has to cut it back this time, and a deep cross by Vardiol. That was up and away by Mecha. Haaland will receive on the right hand side. Taken in by Nunes. And now Foden. Laid off to Vardiol. He will switch it back to Matheus Nunes once again. Not in any real rush, Manchester City, but still with that intent to add a third goal if they can. It's a balance that Manchester City seem to find all the time, and it's when they have just dominant control in a game, you can much easier find that balance between trying to push for a third but not really go for it too much, not overcommit yourself. They manage the game so well, Manchester City, that even at 2-0 you're not really fearing that the game's going to go away from them or look under threat at any real point. I've got to say, the soundtrack of tonight's game is those Dortmund fans, because they have not stopped singing since the first minute of this game, and a true European away crowd that is. Oh, what a ball by Doku to the underlapping Nico O'Reilly. And he will just reverse it back to Jeremy Doku again. A wonderful ball, but not much options past that for Manchester City to exploit. Have to look a little bit more compact at the minute, Dortmund, but here comes Savinho again, just bursts past Svensson. He just about gets back in, but for a second there it looked like he was going to leave him for dead once more. Certainly not for the first time tonight. Savinho just looking sharp as ever tonight and wins the corner. Foden over to take this corner on the right hand side. Now for the delivery, Haaland had come to the near post, as did Reinders, and Nico O'Reilly's header is off target. One thing about Manchester City, they have been consistent in the Champions League this season. This will be the fourth successive game, as it stays as it is, with their fourth successive game in the Champions League this season, where they've scored exactly 2 goals. 2-0 win against Napoli, a 2-2 draw away at Monaco, and a 2-0 win away at Villarreal. So consistent on that front. And 2 goals tonight. Long kick away by Gregor Kobel once more. That's a flick ball, a hopeful ball towards Adeyemi, who tried to make the most of it, but again, wonderful backtracking from Josko Vardiol to head it back to his goalkeeper under pressure. Did really well there. lovely little turn of pace from Jeremy Doku on the spin, and he lays it off here to Reinders. Now down the right hand side comes Savinho again, up against Svensson. Savinho chops onto his left foot this time, linking up with Reinders. There's a Dortmund player down. Referee says play on. Slowly but surely will get back to his feet, but he is now going to stop the game, the referee, and it's Max Bayer, I think, that's a little hurt. Again, Savinho tearing Svensson apart again. Skips away from them that time, and Savinho gets the ball away, and he might just clip Max Bayer afterwards, but very little contact. That's a nice ball in behind, and Haaland linking up with O'Reilly. Back to Haaland now. Doku and Haaland straight at the goalkeeper. Again, really good again from City. Just quick turn of pace. Foden into Haaland. Haaland linking up with O'Reilly, sorry. Then back to Haaland, then into Doku, and back again for the third time to Erling Haaland, whose shot is low and hard right at the goalkeeper. Again, that switch ball from Nico Schlotterbeck, that time overhit. Couldn't be kept in by Ryerson. Niko Kovac in conversation with his assistants to see what their team can try and produce. Try and get something out of this game at the very least, and if they can, fight back as Ben Sabini's under pressure from Erling Haaland. Did well there, to be fair. Did the Dortmund centre-back, as he was caught in possession, but in the face. But here comes Reinders finding Haaland. Referee said play on. Here's Haaland. Finding it to Doku. Very narrow Manchester City for the second. As Ben Sabini does get back to his feet and rushes back into position. Here's Phil Foden with a chance. And there's another goal. Very similar to his first. His second. Coolly tucked into the bottom left corner again. 3-0. And that is surely now game, set and match Manchester City. Just exquisite from Phil Foden once again. The precision is off the charts. Just sensational. I mean, absolutely scintillating finish. Again, it all comes from this moment from Rami Ben Sabini, who thought he was fouled by Savinho, and I think it's a fair point from Ben Sabini that he was fouled. But again, this comes about 30-40 seconds well after that opportunity. He's back in the he's back in the shape. It's that far on from that challenge, and Phil Foden just steps away from a defender onto his left foot and just uses Nico Schlotterbeck to guide it around the goalkeeper and into the bottom left corner. Just whipped beautifully. Wonderful from Phil Foden. Second goal of the night. Manchester City's third. And that is surely, as I said, game, set and match. And the slim hopes of Dortmund's opportunity to find a way back into this game have just been dashed even further. And you probably really thought that since the start of the second half it's probably been coming, because again Manchester City just picked up where they left off and have continued to threaten Dortmund. And they've really had nothing to fight back against, if I'm honest. I mean, Dortmund have been pretty much hopeless going forward as well. I mean, they've barely had a threat at Manchester City's goal. Karim Adeyemi with the only shot on target, and even that wasn't the most of difficult saves for Gigi Donnarumma. So, if I'm honest, it's just a Pretty comfortable game so far for Manchester City overall. We have a goal in Milan to tell you about at San Siro, and I have a bit of reparations to make up for a point I made at half-time, and I'll get there in a moment to tell you about that. Andy says there is no other league where they all win in Europe every week. European games are played, or most of them anyway. I'm trying to figure out what you mean by that, but certainly English football is dominant at the minute in Europe. I mean, Newcastle cruising to a 2-0 win as it stands. City making Dortmund look below average really at this minute in time. Liverpool making Madrid look really average last night. I mean, more than one occasion this Champions League match week, and certainly with the way the table will look after 4 match weeks, it's certainly English dominated. The top 10 in the Champions League table at this minute includes all 6 English teams. So 6 of the top 10 teams in the Champions League in terms of the table as it stands are English teams. I think that says enough. Bayern Munich, Inter, Real Madrid and PSG, the other 4. As it was said about that goal at San Siro, and it is a huge goal. I said at half-time, Inter and Arsenal, the only 2 sides yet to concede in the Champions League this season, and I said I would hedge my bets on Inter, that not changing tonight. Well, let's just take that point back, because Caoimhan Almaty have equalised at San Siro. So certainly the Champions League showing that you can't even rule out Caoimhan Almaty, who'd scored 1 goal coming into tonight's games in their first 3, and a very strong defensive shape again from Inter Milan and the way they'd started this campaign. But a leveller found by Ofri Arad has levelled the game. Inter 1, Kairat 1. Here come Manchester City again, Foden across, Savinho skids it just over the crossbar. Again, his positive performance tonight for Savinho is just missing that, a goal, and he wasn't too far away from finding one there. Again, just gorgeous from City. Instinctive passing in between the lines. The movement is just immense, and Phil Foden with a chipped cut back towards Savinho, who struck it first time and skidded it just across, over the crossbar. Not too far away. Still 3-0 though. Looks like Niko Kovac is going to go to his bench at this juncture. He's going to make a hat full of changes. Well, we can tell you there's been another goal in Bruges. Bruges took the lead. Barcelona equalised. Bruges then took the lead again. Barcelona have equalised again. It's 2-2. In that one, as Dortmund have a wayward chance with Svensson off target. So it is 2-2 there now in Bruges. And Barcelona not giving up the fight in that one. Lamine Yamal with the finish. Wonderful little first touch, and just poked it with the outside of his left boot into the far corner. Wonderful from Lamine Yamal again, and it's all square once more. So 2-2 there. And a goal to tell you about in Amsterdam between Ajax and Galatasaray as well. And I told you about Ajax's lack of confidence. Well, Galatasaray have just hurt that even further. Victor Osimhen has given Galatasaray the lead in that one. So Ajax looking on course to lose all 4 of their opening Champions League games of this season in the league phase, and is going from bad to worse for Ajax at the moment. Leroy Sané with the setup and Victor Osimhen with the finish. 1-0 to Galatasaray. Here is Siru Shirasi. Striding onto the ball. He's going to have a shot. Took a deflection. He was certain of it, Shirasi, as it went over the crossbar, but certain of the deflection, and the officials do agree. So a corner to Borussia Dortmund will come. Yeah, took a deflection off John Stones, I think, there, that slid in. We have more goals to tell you about. And again in Bruges, it is ping pong football in Bruges. We'll get to that in a minute because we have this Dortmund corner. And they're readied. 4 players on the sidelines for Dortmund, so that's going to be a full wrath of changes. Not before this corner though. To Dortmund. Left hand side. Ryerson over it. Right footed. Into the box. Headed away at the near post by City. Nico Gonzalez with the header. Fizzed back in again though, and this time caught by Gianluigi Donnarumma. Right, let's tell you what's happened in Bruges. And again, it's another sucker punch to Barcelona. They fought all the way back to get back into the game again and level it again, and it didn't last too long. 2 minutes after they'd levelled, Bruges are back in front once again, and for the 3rd time tonight, Club Bruges lead Barcelona in Bruges, and it is Carlos Forbes again. It's his 2nd of the night and his 3rd goal involvement of the evening. 2 goals and an assist. He's having a hell of a game against Barcelona, and it's Bruges 3, Barcelona 2. And we'll get to the game in Benfica as well. To Benfica and Bayer Leverkusen, as City were dispossessed in their own final third there. And Seydou Shirazi's effort was well blocked by Donnarumma from a narrow angle. And out for another Dortmund corner. Again, going to hold on a second to make those changes. Corner delivered in, lofted into the area, punched away by Donnarumma. And I want of a strike by Schlotterbeck. He did well to recover it, but he completely mishit the kick. And Valdemar Anton wins the throw-in off Jeremy Doku, and now the changes will come from Dortmund. 4 in one go. And let's just say, I'm not going to tell you them one by one because I will get myself in a complete muddle. I'll tell you them once they're all done and dusted. I can tell you what's happening in Benfica, by the way. Again, Ajax are 1 down. They have lost all of their games to this point in the Champions League. Benfica had lost 3 out of 3, while they are behind at home to Bayer Leverkusen. So those 2 sides, Benfica and Ajax, similar fates at the moment, and a Leverkusen side without a win in the Champions League so far this season. They lead away in Benfica. Patrick Schick, the experienced centre forward, has given them the lead. So it is Benfica 0, Bayer Leverkusen 1. Quite the handful of goals in the second half already for these teams in the Champions League, but none so far for Borussia Dortmund. They trail by 3-0. Foden with the first, Haaland with the second, and then Foden with his second for Manchester City's 3rd. And that is where we stand at the moment. A pretty dominant display for Manchester City overall, and the scoreline certainly reflecting that at the minute. Dortmund have started to show a little bit of a fight back, but could it be just too little too late really in this? There's a penalty in Amsterdam for Galatasaray, and Victor Osimhen is over it. I'll tell you what happens live here. Osimhen standing over this one could double Galatasaray's lead and exert even more hurt onto the Ajax fans. They're at the Johan Cruyff Arena. Adeyemi will hit one from range there for Dortmund. Just skimmed wide, although might be a deflection on there. So the Osimhen penalty is scored. So 2-0 to Galatasaray in that one. And it is getting from bad to worse for Ajax on the night. And they trail by 2-0, and that will be their 4th successive defeat in the Champions League this season, and quite an easy penalty decision. Definite handball. So 2-0 to Galatasaray. So Foden and Emre Can kind of colliding. And Emre Can only off the bench and has the captain's armband and is not particularly happy with Erling Haaland there for a moment. Let's tell you those changes then for Dortmund. They've just come through to me. Pascal Gross, Emre Can, Carney Chukwuemeka and Job Bellingham. all onto the field, replacing Marcel Sabitzer, Rami Bensebaini, Max Bayer and Siru Girassi. So those are the changes for Dortmund. Here's Foden. Manchester City haven't made a change just yet. Still 22 minutes to go with this match, and they lead by 3-0, so they're in a very comfortable position. Well, I'm glad I was reluctant to talk about a goal in Marseille, between Marseille and Atalanta, because we believe it's just been disallowed. Atalanta thought again they'd taken the lead on the night, but Ademola Lookman's goal has been disallowed by VAR. So no goal there in that one. And it is still goalless. And another goal to tell you about in Milan at San Siro. And despite Caradamati fighting back into the game, they trail once again. It is 2-1 to Inter. They're back in front in that one. And it is Carlos Augusto with the second goal. 2-1 to Inter as a City free kick fizzed in. Up and cleared away, although there was a foul on a Dortmund player. So a free kick to the visitors. Yeah, see it here again. Reinders with a delivery, right-footed, and maybe a little bit of a push in the back of Valdemar Anton there, which gets Dortmund the free kick. Adeyemi stepping in and winning a free kick out of Manchester City there is Joshko Gvardiol, that's hurt himself in the process of making that challenge against Karim Adeyemi. Well, despite his team being 3-0 up, Pep Guardiola does look still a little bit stressed down there. Penalty in Bruges. Big moment, because it is a penalty to Bruges. They lead by 3-2. This could be even better a chance for Dortmund, and they've got one back. And could this be on? The most improbable, but they could very much be back into this game. 3-1. And it's from a free kick. It's just fed out wide here. Pretty simple for Dortmund. A ball across the box. Is he onside? It looks like he's just onside. And it's Valdemar Anton. Really nice finish. Good ball by Ryerson across. And Anton sneaking in the near post and getting one back. Maybe Pep Guardiola had a right and a reason to be sitting down and looking worried, because the side have just conceded. And with 18 minutes to go, maybe Borussia Dortmund could be back into this. They had a quick look at it, and it was checked and cleared, and it is a goal. So it is City 3, Dortmund 1. And it really looked far easier than it probably should have been for Borussia Dortmund. Two passes, and the ball was into the back of the net from Valdemar Anton's shot. Here they come again. Dortmund has it, ignited them all of a sudden. Ball across that was well blocked at the near side by Matheus Nunes, behind for the corner. Well, I can tell you that penalty that was initially given by Anthony Taylor in Bruges, he checked it, went over to the monitor and had another look and has ruled it out. So it is still 3-2 to Bruges, but no penalty for Bruges now. At corner to Dortmund, left-hand side, right-footed delivery, lofted into the area, punched away by Donnarumma, and the referee is going to give a foul anyway for Donnarumma being fouled, although it looked a little soft to me. Maybe there is something for Pep Guardiola to be a little bit worried about. And The side that hasn't made any changes so far is going to change that just now, because Ryan Cherky and Bernardo Silva look like they're ready and waiting to enter the fray at any moment. Haaland with a little shove gives away the free kick. Dortmund, could they be ignited by that goal to conjure up something quite improbable? And here they're in behind again. It's Caoimhan with a chance. He's got the ball across, back post, and the shot is skied well over the bar by Ryerson. He was in the right area, just not the right contact onto the ball. Yeah, Caoimhan timed his run to perfection, in behind, really nicely worked. Good ball down the left side. Adeyemi held his run well and then tried to whip it in round the back post for Ryerson on the edge of the 6-yard box. Just a little high for him, and he was stretching at it. Couldn't keep the shot down. A little bit better again from Dortmund. Reinders onto the ball here for Manchester City, trying to exert some return to calmness for City, but not able to on that occasion. Well intercepted by Dortmund. 15 minutes to go. City 3, Dortmund 1. Switch ball coming. Nicely cut out by Matheus Nunes, but the second ball won by Svensson. Now to Emre Can. Bellingham. Back it goes to Schlotterbeck, and now Anton. And down the right hand side comes Ryerson. Ryerson steps onto his left foot, rolls it out wide, in behind. Chance back across, and Adeyemi's shot. Well blocked and deflected and cleared away by Manchester City. John Stones with the initial block. But again, causing problems. And actually, they've given a corner, I think, to Borussia Dortmund here. See it again. Good cut back from the right-hand side. Adeyemi broke into space and blocked by John Stones there. Might have been some claims of a penalty, but never in a million years. Comes off the inside of his left leg. And it will be a corner to Dortmund. They've got the momentum now. Ryerson with another corner. Right-footed, loop to the back post. It's flicked back across and punched away by Donnarumma. Had to get a hand to it, as it would have been a major threat if he didn't. As Emre Can does well at covering over Jeremy Doku. And now on the attack again come Dortmund, as that opportunity from Pascal Gross. His cross was blocked. Well, it looks like it's going to be more changes. A heap of changes for Manchester City incoming, as another goal in Bruges to tell you about, as Adeyemi in behind again, and caused much concern that John Stones had to fire clear, even though his goalkeeper was coming onto the scene, and Savinho not saying that enough is enough there. Schlotterbeck doing enough to defend that situation, and there's going to be a yellow card coming out to Savinho. I'm not too sure what for, though. Quite honestly. That's what for. He just shoved the assistant referee out of the way. But nothing really the assistant referee could do. He's in his position, and Savinho's off the field. So weird, but weird thing to be frustrated about. But I mean, he gets a yellow card for pushing the assistant referee. Substitutions then for Manchester City. And it is going to be Savinho's last involvement to get a yellow card. And in the meantime, we'll tell you what's happened in Bruges. Because I said about that ping-pong game, well, it is certainly a ping-pong match there in Bruges. Bruges led 3 times. Well, they have now been pegged back 3 times, and Barca are back on terms once again. A bit unfortunate, this one, though. The cross from Lamine Yamal was just deflected by a bruised defender past his goalkeeper and into the back of the net. So an unfortunate one, but they all count, and Barcelona will be very happy that they all count, because that is 3-3. And for the third time tonight, they're back on terms, and maybe third time lucky that they turn an equaliser into a chance to try and take the lead for the first time tonight for Barca. But it is 3-3 with around about 12 minutes or so to go in that one. It is now 3-0 to Galatasaray, so even more pain for Ajax, and it was another penalty, and another Victor Osimhen penalty that was slotted home nicely, and it made it 3-0, and really puts this game very much to bed in Amsterdam. Just keeping it, just watching the penalty once again from Victor Osimhen. Yeah, beautiful penalty into the far right corner, nicely taken, and 3-0 to Galatasaray. First half that didn't have major amounts of goals, but second half much more of a goal fest between all these sides that we've watched tonight. The 14 teams in action at 8 o'clock this evening. That was a weird back ball by Cherki, and Vardiol had to rescue it, but now Donnarumma's trying to come out, and he does get a toe to it, and again he does, which the crowd rise inside the Etihad to celebrate, because that was two big moments. Gianluigi Donnarumma had to make contact onto the ball, otherwise City were in trouble, and now here they're on the move to try and finish the game. Here's Phil Foden on a hat-trick, Bernardo Silva in behind, very well blocked and seen behind for a goal kick. Let's tell you about those City changes, by the way. Bernardo Silva, Ruben Dias and Ryan Cherki all on. Jeremy Doku, Tiani Rounders and Savinho all taken off. So a triple change there for Pep Guardiola's Manchester City, just to try and get the job over the line without much concern. And Dortmund have made their fifth and final change of the night. Fabio Silva is onto the field, former Wolves player, and he's replaced Karim Adeyemi. A little bit of a surprise that, but Adeyemi's had to come off despite being probably Dortmund's best player of the night, and he's on the bench after a well worked hard shift tonight for Karim Adeyemi. Again, Gonzalez with a poor ball, given away cheaply, in Manchester City helping Dortmund a little bit here. Svensson. Back it comes to Schlotterbeck, who will fizz one out to the right hand side for Ryerson. And Ryerson with a deep cross. Donnarumma came for it, he missed it, but it was cleared away by Manchester City, and I think there's going to be a free kick anyway to City. I don't know whether it was Donnarumma that was fouled, but I didn't see nothing. Oh no, it was Donnarumma, it was John Stones that was shoved by Fabio Silva out of the way. That's definitely a foul. After a second review, and I apologise to the referee, Simon Marciniak, it was a foul. So 7.5 minutes to go, and that goal back from Valdemar Anton has just unsettled Manchester City a little bit, but Dortmund need to find a second very soon, otherwise this game will just fizzle out. But Manchester City will be hoping that it does end that way, but Dortmund not going down without a fight here tonight. And as I said, at half-time, a very tall order. They were 2 goals down at half-time with a lot of time still to play. They're 2 goals down with single-digit minutes left in the game. Here is Chukwuemeka. Inside to Bellingham. Down to the right-hand side for Ryerson. Steps inside first time. Works it back to Emre Can, and now Bellingham. And a good challenge by Bernardo Silva forces Dortmund back a little bit, but Schlotterbeck will receive and get them on the front foot again. one interesting little fact about Borussia Dortmund coming into tonight's games, in each of their first 3 Champions League games this season, they've scored 4 goals. No team has ever in the Champions League scored 4 goals in 4 consecutive games. I mean, it would be quite a surprise if Dortmund were to do it from now, but anything's possible. Here's a chance for Carney Chukwuemeka, making a nice run. Does well to switch it out wide to Ryerson, who whips a ball in, away by Stones and up in the air by Nunez, but guided it well and battling with Dortmund again, but to no avail. And Donnarumma does well just to smother this one. And up in the northeast of England, Newcastle still leading Athletic Club by 2-0 as it stands, and now a chance for City in behind. Haaland was the target. Nicely cut out by Schlotterbeck, and Schlotterbeck brought down by Nico O'Reilly, who's going to get a yellow card. But referee quick on the whistle there again. Dortmund wanting the advantage, not getting it. Nico O'Reilly gets a yellow card. And Manchester City going to make another change. Erling Haaland's night is done and dusted. Another standing ovation from the Etihad crowd to another wonderful goal from him. It was City's second of the night. And a wonderful cracking finish. But as I said earlier on, it's one of those that Erling Haaland would call easy. And one that he would 999 times out of 1,000 score from. And the double change there from City. On that moment, Ryan Ait-Nouri on for Nico O'Reilly, as well as Marmoush on for Haaland. That's nice play by Dortmund here, but need to be more aggressive. And Ryerson there with a pretty poor ball in behind that was easily guided by Ruben Dias, back to his goalkeeper in Donnarumma. Still goalless in Marseille, between Marseille and Atalanta. In that one, neither side have found the net. Atalanta had thought they had, and also had a penalty, so they've probably come the closest, but to no avail as of yet on the score sheet. Still remains goalless there. Ademola Lookman did have the ball in the back of the net, but that was disallowed by VAR. Elsewhere, quite a few goals around the grounds, no more so than in Bruges, where it is still 3-3. And I wouldn't rule out a winner from either one of those two that could come before the final whistle. Certainly can rack up the goals. For Manchester City tonight, it just looks like it will be one of those games where they've dominated for so long and done all the hard work to get to 3-0, and maybe did give a goal back, but didn't really give much more than that back to Dortmund, who have been second best tonight. There's no question about it. I think Manchester City had, until they probably went to 3-0, they had bossed the game beyond belief, and really Dortmund had little to no say in the game, probably until the final 15 to 20 minutes. And by that point, as I said, was it too little too late? It seems like it might have been, for that goal to be found by Valdemar Anton to get them back into it for Dortmund, and as I say, the damage was more or less done by that point. It just looks like Manchester City are just going to see this one out, unless something crazy can happen in the next minute or so. We will have there is 2 minutes at the end of the 90 here. 2 minutes to the 90, sorry. And then we'll find out how much additional time we will play. As we'll roll back to Donnarumma. Looks like Manchester City's very good home record in the Champions League will continue. They've unbeaten in 22 home Champions League group stage or league phase games, won 19 and drawn 3 of those games at home. The last time they did lose at home in the Champions League in the early stages of the competition was a 2-1 defeat on match day 1 of the 2018-19 season at home to Lyon. By the way, Erling Haaland, 38th goal in 34 group stage or league phase appearances in the Champions League. Quite frugal, frivolous, whatever word you want to use. Immense, unstoppable, inevitable. All of those words apply. Oh, what a back heel by Cherki, laying it out to Ait-Nouri, who won the free kick. Beautiful bit of skill by Rayan Cherki. See it here. Ait-Nouri under all sorts of bother. Cherki just steps in and says, you know what, I'm just going to do a little bit of this, and completely took 2 Dortmund players out of the game. Well, there's some controversy in France, Marseille against Atalanta. I said there hadn't been a goal in it. Well, Atalanta have found the back of the net, but they are fuming Marseille about something. And we'll find out whether it stands or not in a moment, as we will have 4 additional minutes. And the former Brighton manager, Roberto De Zerbi, is the Marseille manager at the minute, and he's the one that is furious. He's just got a yellow card in that game, so a little bit of a problem as we see this again. Actually, could he be... Oh, now I can see he is complaining of a handball in the build-up. Right, here come Manchester City, try and finish it off. There it is, Rayan Cherki. And there's the 4th for Manchester City. If it wasn't already certain, well, it certainly is now. City 4, Borussia Dortmund 1. And that goal from Rayan Cherki, capping off what is a wonderful night for Manchester City in the Champions League. Completely bossing Borussia Dortmund and making them look second best. And something that Pep Guardiola has a lot of experience doing, as he did it as the Bayern coach for quite a number of years. And his team are doing it again tonight. And Rayan Cherki just off the bench and adding a wonderful, wonderful goal. Let's see it here. Yeah, nice ball, nice strike, good goal. 4-1. Right. I don't believe it. I really don't believe it. There's another goal in Bruges. It's the 7th goal of the night. I'll tell you what's happening in a minute, but because that Atalanta goal has stood, and Roberto De Zerbi's complaints have fallen on deaf ears. It probably should have been disallowed, but it has been allowed, and it is 1-0 to Atalanta. So that is a huge, huge goal there, but an even more important goal in Bruges to tell you about, and that is the 7th goal of the night. I can tell you that for the 4th time tonight, Club Bruges have taken the lead against Barcelona. It is Bruges 4, Barcelona 3, and it's Wojciech Szczesny caught in possession. Really good pressure by the number 17 who scores it. They're checking Anthony Taylor for a possible foul, and I can tell you actually they just completely ignore all of that because it's just been disallowed, and that's harsh. It's harsh from what I've seen. It looks like really good pressing for me, but not for the 7th time tonight. And Romeo Vermont has had his goal disallowed, and he thought he had his magic moment of scoring the winner against Barcelona. Well, that has been quickly eradicated, and it is 3-3. It remains Anthony Taylor right in the mix of the controversy, and one that I just didn't agree with on that occasion, as we're into the last minute of the match here at the Etihad City. 4-1 and home and dry, no worries. But look at those Dortmund fans. I mean, they're 4-1 down away from home, but they are singing like they're 4-1 up at this minute in time, and quite a mass exodus of the home crowd, which probably states something about passion, but I'm not going to pick fights tonight. Here's Gianluigi Donnarumma with a long kick. Mainly just waiting for the final whistle now to be blown by the referee, Simon Marciniak. And shouldn't be too far away. And free kick to Manchester City there. Well, as we see the stands at the Etihad, and not the most filled. There is the final whistle at the Etihad, and Manchester City bossing Borussia Dortmund in Manchester tonight. 4-1 win, and Niko Kovac's side pretty much humbled at the Etihad. It was a dominant display all the way through from City. Phil Foden with the first, Erling Haaland with the second in the first half to cruise City into a 2-goal lead. Dortmund then conceded the third when Phil Foden swept home for the second time on the night. They thought they were getting themselves back into the game when Valdemar Anton got one back, but in the end there wasn't much more than that on the sheet for Dortmund tonight. And Ryan Cherki put the icing on top of the cake when he scored in the 91st minute to wrap it all up beyond doubt. And it's City cruising to victory, and they become the fourth English team to win this match week out of 5 teams. They're still going in Newcastle, so we'll tell you what happens at the final whistle there. I can actually tell you now because it's just gone. And Newcastle have won against Athletic Club, so they have won by 2 goals to nil. So 5 of the 6 English sides that are in action this week have won, and Chelsea, the only side failing to win. They drew earlier on this evening away to Karabag. Right, they're still pushing for a winner in Bruges, Club Bruges at the minute. Inside the box here, it's still 3-3. Can they have their fairy tale moment against Barcelona? We'll see. Everybody back for Barca at this moment in time. Inter have beaten Kairat Almaty by 2-1 in that one, and a number of other games still underway. But what a performance, I have to say, from our game tonight for Manchester City. I mean, they were dominant, they were in control, they were really just by far the better team, and Borussia Dortmund were completely second best. I mean, the amount of space they were giving Savinho early in the game, they just looked really naive and really, I mean, basic, really, if I'm honest, defensively. They figured it out in the second half, but for the whole of the first half, they just could not get the grips with Savinho. In the end, Phil Foden with a wonderful finish to open the scoring, and in a moment where the game was pretty even in the first 20 minutes, nothing really was happening. City were slowly but surely growing into the game, and when they did find that goal, they didn't look back from then on in. Phil Foden with 2 goals tonight, a great performance from him. Erling Haaland on the score sheet as well, and Ryan Cherki, as I said, adding that 4th goal to the tally. But a wonderful performance from Manchester City, an unbeaten start to the Champions League campaign, 3 wins out of 4, and the only other game they failed to win was a draw away at Monaco. But a wonderful start to the to the Champions League campaign for City, and back-to-back home wins for Manchester City the weekend and now in midweek, and they have a big game against Liverpool to come at the weekend. That is our game of the week this Sunday afternoon, 4:30 here on LFS. Right, let's round up all the action from tonight's games, because they have all now concluded while I was filling time. Paphos 1-0 winners at home to Villarreal. Karabag 2, Chelsea 2. We've already well discussed those 2 games that finished earlier this evening. But from tonight's 8 o'clockers, Ajax again, terrible start to the season in the Champions League. 4 defeats out of 4 for Ajax and Galatasaray, cruising to victory in that second half. Victor Osimhen with the hat-trick, all 3 goals for him, 2 of which were penalties, and Galatasaray easing to a 3-0 victory. Their 3rd win of the season in the Champions League, and Ajax rock bottom of the Champions League league table. They have conceded 14 goals in 4 matches and just scored the solitary 1 for Ajax. A pretty dismal start to the campaign. Similarly, for Benfica, who have fallen to defeat also for the 4th time in the Champions League this season, they and Ajax have been the 2 worst teams, without a shadow of a doubt, in the Champions League this season, and a pretty lacklustre Bayer Leverkusen side coming into tonight, coming away with their first win of the Champions League season. Patrick Schick, with the only goal of that game in Portugal, has given Bayer Leverkusen the victory, and they move up quite a few places in the table. Benfica second bottom, only above Ajax, who've had a torrid start to the campaign as well. What a game in Bruges to tell you about. It is finished 3-3. They thought they'd actually won at Bruges, but that was another moment to talk about. But what a performance from the Belgian side tonight. An absolute cracker of a result for them. And they probably even could have, as I said, come away with all 3 points against Barcelona. And Tersoldi gave them the lead after 6 minutes. Ferran Torres then levelled for Barca before they were back in front again. Bruges through Carlos Forbes, who added it second to make it 2-1. Then Lamine Yamal got Barca back into the game again when he equalised, but 2 minutes after that, Carlos Forbes gave Bruges the lead again, and then a own goal from Christopher Solis in the 77th minute got Barca's third goal of the night, and a ping-pong affair. Bruges led 3 times, Barca equalised 3 times, and Bruges still had a big chance to try and win it, but that goal was disallowed late on. 3-3, what a great Champions League game tonight. A win for Inter Milan despite the narrow margins of it, but they did get the victory at home to Caoimhan Almaty, who could have pulled off one of the results of the season, certainly based on the way things were expected to go there in San Siro this evening. Inter taking the lead in that one. Lautaro Martinez with the goal just before half-time. They did have a penalty in the first half that was given on the field. It was ruled out by VAR after an on-field review. So 1-0 at half-time. Caoimhan Almaty then, quite improbably, scored the first goal against Inter Milan in the Champions League this season. And that came through Ofri Arad in the 55th minute. But Carlos Augusto was to be the man who found the winner for Inter Milan in the 67th minute to win the game, and Inter make it a pretty perfect start to the campaign. Only one of 3 sides after 4 matches to have won each of their games, and that was Inter alongside Arsenal and Bayern Munich, who'd done that last night. Here at the Etihad, City winning by 4-1. We've already talked about that. Newcastle, a big win for them, and another great result for Eddie Howe's team. Dan Burn and Joe Linton with respective headers, scoring the 2 goals for Newcastle tonight in what was a pretty fair display against an Athletic Club side who came to England looking for revenge against English teams when they lost to Arsenal on Matchday 1, but again a similar result, a 2-0 defeat to an English opponent, albeit they outshot Newcastle on the night but couldn't outscore them, and Newcastle were 2-0 victors. And Eddie Howe's team 3 wins out of 4 to start the Champions League campaign. We'll show you the table in a moment after we tell you the final result of tonight's game. Marseille were beaten by 1-0, very controversially, shall I say. Lazar Samardzic with the goal in the 89th minute, scoring the only goal of that game to give Atalanta all 3 points. But Marseille boss Roberto De Zerbi was incessantly arguing that there was a handball in the build-up. I have seen the replay, whether you have or not, I don't know, but if you have, I think you will agree with me. I'm not too sure that should have stood. It looked like Samardzic did handle the ball before he struck the ball into the back of the net, but that was given controversially, and the swings and roundabouts in the Champions League, and Marseille will be feel very hard done by that one tonight. But maybe Atalanta deserved it, considering the chances they already had to try and win the game tonight. Right, those are the results from tonight's games. Let's remind you of last night's results fairly quickly. Napoli 0, Eintracht Frankfurt 0. Big point for Frankfurt on the road. Arsenal 3-0 victors away at Slavia Prague. A Mikel Merino brace in Victor Gyökeres's absence. A late goal from Marcus Llorente sealed the deal for Atletico Madrid at home to Union Saint-Gilloise in a 3-1 victory. AS Monaco were 1-0 winners away at Bodo Glimt. Juventus and Sporting held out for a draw there in Turin. 1-1 at finished. Alexis McAllister's goal from the 62nd minute of that game for Liverpool secured victory against Real Madrid in a massive game at Anfield. Olympiacos won, PSV Eindhoven it finished, or PSV Eindhoven won. It finished in Greece, and the European champions PSG beaten by 2-1 against 10-man Bayern Munich. Luis Diaz with all the say in the first half, 2 goals and a red card for him, but it wasn't to be for PSG on the night to get back into it. And Spurs, a dominant display over Copenhagen. They went also down to 10 men, did Spurs, but despite that they scored 2 more goals after that point and won by 4-0. Those were all the results from tonight's and last night's games in the Champions League, and let's show you what that's done to the league phase table. Now we are at the exact halfway point of the season in the UEFA Champions League phase, and we can tell you that the top three have all won each of their first 4 games. Bayern Munich lead the way with the best scoring record of 14 goals scored and 3 conceded, ahead of Arsenal, who've scored 11 without conceding, but Bayern can score more, so they're above them. And Inter also adding their name to that list of the 100% teams after 4 games, all on 12 points. Manchester City are in 4th. They've, with 3 wins and 1 draw from their first 4, they're on 10 points. Then come PSG, Newcastle, Real Madrid, Liverpool and Galatasaray, who've all won 3 games but lost the other. So they're all on 9 points, and they make up the top 9. Spurs dropped down to 10th after their victory last night, but they're on 8 points. And then come the 7-pointers, come Barca, then Chelsea, Sporting, Dortmund, Qarabag, Atalanta, who make up the top 16. Down further on then into the sides that would still make it through to the knockout stages if we were to finish it today. 6 points come Atletico, PSV, Monaco, Pafos, who got their first win of the night, Bayer Leverkusen also getting their first Champions League win of the season, and Club Brugge, a big game against Barca tonight as well, and Frankfurt and Napoli all on 4 points make up the top 24. And then that bottom 12 set of teams, say 25th to 36th, those teams that would be eliminated if we concluded the league phase tonight. Marseille beaten at the last minute. They could have got a big point there, but that was to be stolen from them in the last minutes. Juventus and Athletic Club, Union Saint-Gilloise, all getting wins, but all sit in the bottom 12. And then come the winless sides in the Champions League: Bodo Glimt, Slavia Prague, Olympiacos, Villarreal, Copenhagen, Karel Almaty, and then the 2 worst teams without a single point in the Champions League: Benfica and Ajax, both at rock bottom of the Champions League table. So that shows you a bit of a fair reflection after 4 games, halfway through the league phase, of where each team kind of lies in this season's Champions League, and some interesting positions for some teams, including Galatasaray, who are quite far up that table, which is quite impressive. And as I said earlier on, quite a number of English teams, all the English teams inside the top 12 come the end of 4 games. Quite impressive. Right, that is it from us tonight. Great to have your company for this one. Match day 5 of the Champions League gets underway in just under 3 weeks' time, the 25th and 26th of November. You can join us then for those games when they come around. But for tonight, it is a pretty comfortable victory for Manchester City in the end, bossing Borussia Dortmund all the way through. And Pep Guardiola pretty pleased with that one tonight. It is City that remain unbeaten after 4 games. Good night.